No, so aggravated trespass has got to be obstructing or disrupting. If I were constantly knocking on the window, harassing them and stopping them, but if I'm just stood outside waiting for you guys, then I'm not. That's not aggravated.
Alright, again, I wasn't here.
Yeah, no, of course. This is what they. This is the thing when they call the police, you get their side of it.
And we can get your side.
Yeah.
You have scared them today.
Right.
It's females that you've approached in there. All right.
They approached me.
Your persona, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. I get
the hood wasn't up, that's because it was raining, but yeah.
She said they've asked you numerous times to leave the building, leave them alone.
Again, I just said if it goes to the point, I can show the film.
Me CCTV of them engaging with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so to that effect. So
Yeah.
asking you now to leave.
Okay.
Right? They don't want to take it over. They just want you to leave, not to come back.
Okay.
A public auditor with a camera, a simple act of filming, and within moments, what begins as an ordinary encounter starts to shift into something more confrontational. The auditor stays composed, grounded in legal knowledge and calm in demeanor, but the pressure builds quickly. Trespass claims surface. Vague suspicion follows, and the authority being exercised in this clip is about to be tested. What unfolds is a methodical, point-by-point dismantling of each allegation thrown. No raised voices, no retreat. Just a steady, informed response to each challenge as it comes. This is what it looks like when someone knows their rights and refuses to be moved without cause.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm just going to call. Okay, so I was fine.
Yeah, just move out the road, shall we?
Privy to the conversation that they just had, because hear about you to be honest.
That's cool.
What's going on today?
I was just around the area doing a little recording out in public. Went down to Amazon and walk around the site up there. There's a business park site. Noticed the Eon site here. Had a walk around. Went down to the Exeter North Airport bit down there. Had a walk around. Noticed they had, as I was walking up just over there, they had one of their doors wedged open. So I was going to go up to reception to tell them that it was open. Obviously, it's a security risk for them. So I noticed it on the way down to the airport bit.
Yeah.
On the way back up, it was still open. So I thought I'd let them know. So the door was locked, so I was going to go around, knock on their window and let them know.
Yeah.
As I go around there, obviously they were on the screens and that, they saw me, came to the door, and I said to them, just noticed while they're there, obviously they're breaching GDPR because their computer screens are all facing the window for a publicly accessible point, which is a breach of GDPR on their part. As soon as I mentioned that, she just got funny, and said, you can't record, you have permission to record me, and all that, and I said, hey, I don't need the permission to record you.
So in a public place you don't.
No, exactly.
Private place, which that is private.
Yeah, if I were
conditional access.
No, that's it. Yeah, but
if they've asked you to leave and stop recording.
But the thing is, nobody not once has asked me to leave.
Okay. That's what you're going to say. Then.
Yeah. I mean, it's all recorded.
If they have asked you to leave and you're not there for kind of recording, then.
Yeah, that's civil trespass.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I can't. I can't record.
Steps into the realm of like aggravated trespass and things like that. Ultimately, I just want to make sure that there's not any issues down here.
Yeah, no.
They decided to call us.
Yeah.
At some point, I think.
Yeah,
I'm not saying what has or hasn't happened, but somebody said they might have felt intimidated by your presence.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I can say I feel intimidated by yours. You know what I mean.
No, I totally get what you're saying. But if you're in a private premises and somebody else feels intimidated and as a result of their lawful activities, regardless of what you say about GDPR and things like that.
Yeah.
If lawful activities are being disturbed.
Well, it's not lawful. Yeah, as I say, it's not lawful if they're breaching GDPR, is it? But
aggravated trespass.
Yeah. But I'm not stopping them from doing anything.
No. They're saying they've felt able to leave and things like that. I wasn't here. I don't know why they're saying that.
No, literally. I mean, as soon as they didn't want to talk to me, I saw them pick up the phone. Like one of them opened the door after the first person, just looked at me and said no, and I saw them pick up the phone. So I knew they were going to call me. So I just stood there and waited for you guys, because if they're going to waste your time bringing you out here, I don't want your time further wasted searching around the area for me. So I'll wait around and deal with it. Yeah, I just do videos for YouTube. Yeah.
Sheer interest, I can see if I know.
Power to the proletariat. Go to get some badge numbers for you. So you got 72208201. You're based at Exeter Police Station here.
We're from Honiton.
Oh, you're Honiton Police Station.
Well.
Oh, I'm a Honiton boy, born and raised.
The auditor had spotted something. An open door, exposed computer screens, a visible security lapse. And when officers arrived, he didn't deflect or retreat. He simply stated what he had seen and waited. The trespass claim came quickly. So did the private property concern. But each time, the auditor returned to the same quiet fact. No one had told him to leave. That detail mattered more than anything else in this exchange. By staying still, staying calm, and staying specific, he removed the oxygen from the suspicion narrative before it could take hold. He had volunteered a clear, benign reason for his presence. He had pointed to the company's own security failures. And then he stood his ground and let the situation develop on its own terms. Psychologically, that changed everything. Officers expecting hesitation found none. The room to escalate simply wasn't there. Because here's what the auditor understood: that the officers did not appear to. Filming in a public or accessible space is legal, and trespass is ordinarily a civil matter. When you are grounded in those facts, pressure loses its grip. Confusion cannot substitute for cause. This was not a confrontation. It was a chess match, and the auditor knew the board.
My suggestion, my friend, is obviously I'm asking you to leave the area now. This is obviously going to be private land. There's additional access the public have. I would suggest they've now withdrawn that access.
They haven't told me that.
Okay. We can find that if we need to. But I'm going to ask you to leave the area.
You can't ask me to leave the area. Unless there's a dispersal order in place.
If they've then withdrawn your permission to be here,
but they need to inform me of that, don't they? You're not a person of their business. They need to inform that.
If they've asked me to basically say that you're not allowed
yeah, but they haven't told you that yet, have they? No, so you can't ask me to leave until such a time. Exactly. So
ultimately, mate, I totally get why you do the things that you do. Sometimes you do get certain officers that are dicks and do things that they should be doing. I'm not here to give you a hard time.
Cool. But, I said, that's fine. If you find out they don't want me on their property,
do you want to just square that away, my friend, and
find out? Can you ask them where their property line is as well, please?
Sorry?
Their property line. Because obviously this road might be a private road, but obviously you got the Exeter Airport. Exactly, we got the Exeter Airport down there, so I don't know if they own it, or if it's public.
Then wouldn't get into the territory of is whether or not, even if you do remain in a public area, if your behaviour causes them harassment, alarm and distress, whether or not we then look at public or ground offences. I don't want to really go down that route. I know.
To be fair, I know in the back of my hand the what constitutes public order offences section 4, 4A and 5, and my behaviour does not constitute that at all. So you could, if you wanted to charge me with that and take me in for that, it would be a no further action. You'd end up with a civil suit against yourself. So it wouldn't be worth it for anybody.
Ultimately, though, what I can't have you doing is staying here all night, causing them to feel intimidated.
No, like I said, once you guys left, I went over there to get a shot of the building because I was getting bored and cold.
Yeah.
So I was literally stood there doing a pan of the building, doing an outro to the video, and then you guys pulled up. So once you guys are gone, I'll probably stand where I'll stand.
I ask you to give me your name and details. You're going to
no, I'm not. No. But
obviously, if it gets to the stage where I suspect you might be committing offences, and I ask you, you do need to give me them.
If you arrest me for it, under suspicion.
Yeah, so
if you detain me, I don't have to. If you arrest me under suspicion, I have to.
If I suspect you of an offence, and you refuse to give me your details, that would then give me a necessity to arrest you. If you give me your details, actually the offence can be dealt with separately without an arrest. That's how.
No. Under the law, you have to be. But once you're arrested, you're obligated to give your details. But you can't arrest me because I refuse to give my details. There's one piece of legislation in the UK that says I have to if you suspect me of it.
Section 50.
Exactly. That's the only one I have to.
Like from my perspective, to explain it how it would be functionally used.
Yeah.
If I suspect somebody's committed an offence, I need to deal with that offence potentially.
Yeah.
If I don't know who that person is, because they won't give me a name, address, details, or anything like that, I then really have no option other than to arrest that person.
The officer moved to push the auditor out. Public order warnings entered the conversation. Then came the suggestion: refusing to provide details could justify an arrest. But the auditor didn't flinch. He calmly separated civil trespass from criminal law and challenged each claim as it arrived, not with aggression, with precision, and that precision changed the entire dynamic of the encounter. When the officer's framing grew vague, the auditor didn't absorb it. He redirected it. He asked a simple, pointed question. Where exactly was the property line? That question forced the officer away from assertion and toward justification. And justification, it turned out, was harder to produce. You could hear the shift in real time. As the trespass angle weakened, the officer reached for broader fences. The goalpost moved. But the auditor had already established the ground rules of the exchange. Facts only, no assumptions, no vague authority accepted without basis. When you understand trespass law, arrest necessity, and the rules around silence, a threat is no longer a threat. It becomes a question that authority must answer on camera. The script had flipped, And the officer was now the one explaining himself.
Okay, so you take me in.
Section 24 of PACE, basically.
Right.
It covers all of that. The reasons for arrest and the necessities.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get to that.
I suppose what it is, if I willingly give my details, and then you could be like, right, it's not an offence that I need to bring you into the station right now because you're not causing any immediate harm. You could come and find me later.
Yeah. So refusing to give your details wouldn't be the offence. It would just then provide a necessity for the arrest.
For the arrest, to identify me at the station. Okay.
Because otherwise, how could I reasonably deal with it? You need to be in things like that where possible.
Go
to practice, so you should do that elsewhere other than arrest if it's practicable and actually we don't need to arrest somebody.
I see where you're coming from with that, yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from with that.
I'm not here to argue with you. I know how the whole YouTube thing works. I find it quite interesting watching stuff.
Good.
Just out of interest, do you only upload the negative one?
No, I went to a police headquarters up in Cambridgeshire, did their headquarters and that, and I had a really, really positive interaction with PC Chris Hepworth. And I uploaded that, and I made a point to really highlight that video because, as much as we just show what we see really. Like, you guys have come out, you've been quite respectful. You know, you haven't tried to like yeah, exactly.
If it gets to the point where you need to do things, then I'm going to ask you to do it, and if you don't do it, then I'm going to probably be considering you possibly using some force.
Yeah, but
hopefully we don't get to that.
No, well, exactly. But yeah, it's when people come out straight away, guns blazing, like, you know, straight away. They didn't want to.
I know that you get a lot of views of police officers doing things that they shouldn't.
Oh, the negative ones, yeah, they get more views, 100%. 100%. I went to the headquarters up here about 3 weeks ago in Exeter. Awful, absolutely awful.
I think there's a certain element of understanding. Like, you can understand from like a policeman's point of view. I'm not suggesting you're doing anything like this, but if you've got somebody that just wanders into a police area, headquarters, police station or whatever, I can understand why the officers are going to be a bit like, oh, hang on a minute, who are you and why are you here?
Well, the thing is, I don't know if you've been to the headquarters up at Exeter. So as you drive around sort of the back entrance sort of way, there's a sign, there's a blue circle one that's got a pedestrian and cycle footpath sign on it. So I just carried on walking up there. I'd already been stopped on the corner by a PC. Had a bit of a conversation with her. I said, well, I'm just going to walk along pavement. So I'm going to stick to publicly accessible areas. So I was walking up there. They got the barrier for the cars. It's controlled by security. That's it. Yeah. But there's no barrier for the pavement or anything. There's no sign saying no unauthorised access or anything like that. So, you know, it's a...
That has now changed, isn't it? There's some
well, 3 weeks ago there wasn't, because that's when I did it.
Yeah, possibly, you might have the course of that.
Yeah, hopefully.
There's no point in me coming here doing things that I shouldn't do, being horrible to you.
No.
Being ridiculous when actually it just makes me look like a mug if I do that.
Well, yeah.
The arrest logic faded. In its place came conversation. The officers shifted approach, testing whether a different angle, access arguments, reasonable dialogue might accomplish what legal pressure had failed to. But the auditor held his position, calmly explained the necessity threshold, and didn't move. What happened next was subtle, but significant. The tone softened on both sides, and yet the legal boundaries didn't shift by a single inch. The auditor acknowledged respectful policing where he saw it. He didn't rant, didn't escalate, didn't reach for confrontation. He simply praised what deserved praise, while quietly, methodically correcting the legal framework underneath the conversation. That was a tactic, and it worked. By sounding reasonable, he dismantled the easiest label officers reach for: the hostile YouTuber, the troublemaker, the person looking for a reaction. None of that could stick here. And without that label, the officer had no choice but to keep negotiating rather than commanding. The chessboard had flipped again. Calm knowledge, delivered with clarity and fairness, carried more weight than implied authority ever could. Understanding what qualifies as public access strips the mystery from intimidation. Know where the legal lines are, know what the signs actually mean, and when the moment comes, speak calmly and hold your ground. The auditor did exactly that, and the officer had to answer for it.
It's not even that it makes you look like a mug. That's not even the main point. The main point is that the police shouldn't be acting like that, you know. At the end of the day, I've got nothing against the police personally. Exactly that. Act within your powers, act reasonable.
Like the common law side of it that comes in.
Yeah.
Things are a little bit less obvious.
Yeah.
A little bit more grey.
Exactly. Until somebody's committed a crime or suspected of committed a crime, there's nothing the police can really do, apart from liaise between.
I know that you guys do plenty of research yourself. You're probably educate yourselves quite a lot.
Yeah.
If we then offences,
Yeah.
like if these guys are saying they don't want you on their premises, and
Yeah.
you refuse to leave, I ask you to leave, you don't leave, and that would be based on the information in the report that we've been given. That will probably get to the point back of
I don't know.
Whether or not you agree or not, most people that don't agree with
Yeah,
you.
no, so aggravated trespass has got to be obstructing or disrupting. If I were constantly knocking on the window, harassing them and stopping them, but if I'm just stood outside waiting for you guys, then I'm not, that's not aggravated.
Alright, again, I wasn't here.
Yeah, no, of course. This is what this is the thing when they call the police, you get their side of it.
And we can help you get your side.
Yeah.
The truth tends to sit somewhere in the middle, doesn't it?
Well, the truth sits on the camera. That's why we record. Yeah, they got a fire truck and
if they make allegations that your behaviour is causing intimidation and obstruction of their activities, you're refusing to leave. Obviously, we act on suspicion, don't we?
Yeah.
I never say this has happened.
Sure. If it ever got to that point, I would opt to show you the footage on my camera before you decide to arrest me, take me in. I would say, look, how about I stop recording? I'd say that I'd ask you to put your camera on,
and I would. Camera runs anyway, so.
Is it on? Is it?
Yeah, it's been on. I did tell you earlier on in the
I was going to say I didn't hear you say that you turned it on.
So,
but
yeah, it is what it is. But at the same time,
yeah, if
I can understand it from their point of view as just like normal work.
Yeah.
They don't really want a stranger outside filming.
No, literally, like
that you can or can't.
No, literally, if when I'd said to them like, oh, by the way, you're breaking GDPR, and now seeing, if they just said, oh, thanks for letting me know, no problem, I would have turned around and said, no worries, cheers, guys, and I would have been on my way. Because I saw them pick up the phone, and I'm like, okay, the police are coming. I don't want to waste your time. If they're going to come out anyway, I don't want you looking for me, wasting more time. So,
in all fairness, from that perspective, okay, you have scared up today.
Right.
It's females that you've approached in there. All right.
They approached me.
Your persona, do you know what I mean? The hood up, that sort of thing. I get
the hood wasn't up, that's because it was raining, but yeah.
She said they've asked you numerous times to leave the building, leave them alone.
Again, as I just said, if it goes to the point, I can show the film.
CCTV of them engaging with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so to that effect. So
yeah.
You now to leave.
Okay.
Right? They don't want to take it over. They just want you to leave, not to come back.
Okay.
And they said, from their perspective, their GDPR, they follow all the rules and regulations that they need to do.
Yeah.
Whenever they leave a computer unattended, they lock it. All of that sort of
but
stuff.
even when they're on it, it's still visible from a publicly accessible area. That's the point.
You don't know what information's on there. It might be.
Well, when I walked past, there was email addresses, there was people's names and addresses.
Email addresses for staff working out.
Yeah, but no, there's people's names and addresses on the screen. I can see it all, you know. Yeah.
Direct complaints.
The officer softened further, but the business complaint returned, tested once more from a different angle. Access concerns, harassment claims, another attempt to find a pressure point that would finally move the auditor on. It didn't work. The auditor pushed back calmly, walked through his conduct on camera, and shifted the entire battleground in one quiet move. Not feelings, not accusations, footage, signs, exact, documented behavior. That reframe was everything. Every exaggerated claim now had to contend with something it couldn't argue against, a lens that had been recording the entire time. Vague allegations carry weight when nothing contradicts them, but footage changes the mathematics of a complaint entirely. Suddenly, authority is weighing one person's word against another's. It's weighing assertion against evidence. And assertion, more often than not, loses at exchange. You could see the balance shift in real time. The complaint that had arrived with confidence began to lose its footing, because a camera doesn't interpret, doesn't exaggerate, and doesn't forget. It simply records what happened. That is what intimidation looks like when it meets documentation. It doesn't collapse dramatically. It just quietly loses its grip. Stay calm. Record clearly. Know your boundaries. And let the footage carry the argument you don't need to make out loud.
Oh, I will. But the thing is, I like to let somebody hear, though, so I don't have to take it all that high, because I don't want to get them in trouble. They're doing that thing, because then they can rearrange their desk so it's not facing the windows, you know.
They probably aren't able to turn the screens around. But anyway, that's...
I know that's what Did you ask them where their property line was?
Yeah, they wouldn't give you that information.
They wouldn't give you that information. Okay, well, I don't know where their property is. I'm going to assume it's where this line is here in the road. That's what I was saying to 7220, so I don't know your name, so I was going to, obviously they got the airport and that down there, so I was going to stand on this bank here, do what I was doing as you guys came in, just going to do a pan of the building, do an outro to my video, I'm going to head on anyway, because that's what I was about to do. But I'm assuming this is their property line, and with that up there, So you got the access to the airport and that down there. Okay. And then I'll be on my way anyway.
All right. When you say on your way, what sort of time frame are you looking at?
A couple of minutes. So I was just going to do an outro to the video, do a bit of a recap.
Go in there when we chat one. So you, as far as you're concerned, you've got everything you want, have you?
Yeah, there's as long as they're aware that, you know.
We don't want to be doing. Do you mean like you have caused harassment, alarm, distress? Okay, which is a public order offence.
I was just saying to 772 I know all the.
I get it. Yeah,
I know all the things for that, and my behaviour doesn't constitute a POA.
It comes down to basically our suspicion. If what they tell us gives us reasonable grounds to suspect we may have committed an offence, we would then investigate it. And as part of that investigation, we find out that actually the points of the proof for that offence are not met. Then, of course, there wouldn't be any. So then
they're like fire. Then they get in trouble for filing false police reports. Saying I entered their building.
It's basically based on the points of the proof because the threshold that we have to reach, as you know, will be beyond.
Yeah, but if I called you up and lied, so you got here saying, you know, either somebody's entered my building, which is obviously, like I said, all on camera.
If the evidence suggests that actually what really happens was complete and utter opposite, then of course we can look at offences that may have committed on that part. But ultimately, any arrest we make is always on suspicion. So the arrest itself, if that were to happen, wouldn't be an unlawful arrest because we would have the reasonable grounds to suspect based on the information we were given at the time. If later on the investigation suggests that something else is happening.
But then that's tricky, because your suspicion is based on one person's word against the other. So it's like saying you believe a corporation, a business, over a member of the public.
Suspicion is pretty much down here. Believe is quite a lot higher. If I believe something, then I'm pretty much saying 100% that's suspicion is actually quite a low threshold. In most allegations can only be suspicion really until they've been investigated properly. So it's one of those where it's difficult. I totally get what your point is with it. Actually, I get it. But at the same time, you can't raise questions, offences, things like that. So, the only way that we can do it is to do it the correct way. So,
that's fair enough.
Hopefully a positive interaction for your channel rather than a negative one. And hopefully it won't be edited too much.
No, I don't like to. If anything, all I do is I fast forward bits when I sit around, but I don't like to cut it out. People do moans say, just show the interactions. Like, no, I like to show everything that led up to it because I don't want people thinking that I'm going and prodding people to get the reaction. Because I just kind of stand around and people come to me.
The officer reached for justification, vague property boundaries, second-hand claims pass along from the business. And somewhere in that combination, the suggestion that an arrest might be warranted. The auditor didn't take the bait. He stayed measured, questioned the legal threshold out loud, and explained his filming openly and without hesitation. There was no emotional argument, no raised voice, just a calm, consistent demand for something the officer was struggling to produce, actual evidence, not allegation. That distinction was a turning point. Because when suspicion is treated like evidence, it only holds power if the other person accepts that framing. The auditor didn't. He separated the two, allegation on one side, evidence on the other, and quietly asked the officer to point to something concrete. The officer now had to explain his logic rather than simply assert it, and that shift, subtle as it appeared, changed everything about the encounter. Command requires no explanation. Scrutiny demands one. The moment authority is asked to justify itself out loud, the dynamic is no longer the same. Vague suspicion is a powerful tool in the dark. Dragged into the light of a camera and a precise legal question, it begins to collapse under its own weight. Know what public space protects. Understand where corporate complaints end and legal thresholds begin. And when suspicion arrives without evidence to support it, make authority explain the difference.
I think, I think these guys, their perception of it might be a bit different. They feel like they're prodded a bit. Phone calls to us. That was your intention or not?
No, literally, I just walk around the building and then she came to the door. As I was walking back around, she came to the door and I was like, she's like, can I help? I was like, just let you know, before your screens are on display and your door's open. And she just got all funny. I was like, alright, cool.
So, the plan now is?
Like I said, just going to stand on this verge, do a plan of the building, do an outro, and I'll be on my way.
I just got to let them know that, alright? Yep. So that they know.
No worries. I'll probably wait to get a shot of you guys driving out as well.
I would suggest if after we leave we get another call.
I will not wait cold enough as it is.
Again, we will probably be returning. And again, if they're substantiating an allegation that they felt harassed and they're distressed by your behaviour, then we need to consider dealing with a potential Section 5 public order and defence. Okay. We need to go into detail about why they feel harassed or distressed by your presence. But it's only fair that I have that discussion with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's just crazy, isn't it? Because if I was stood there and then say I were here for an appointment and I was waiting to go in for an appointment, and I phoned you and said, I feel alarmed, harassed and distressed because they've got their CCTV pointed at me.
You need to give me a little bit more of a reason than that. So
exactly, you know what I mean?
But I've not even spoken to them.
Yeah, no, exactly. But that's what I mean, like, a person with a camera isn't enough for a POA. It's just not. You know, it's not enough for a POA. Some officers try to use Terrorism Act, and there's memos out about that in December 2021. You know, but yeah, it is. But it's just surprising how many people get detained and searched under it. But
I think it's going to be bigger force, isn't it? Than that, probably.
Yeah. So you're a Honiton boy here?
No, not from Honiton originally.
No, okay.
Somewhere else, not a million miles away.
So I got born and raised. I haven't lived around here for years, just down visiting. But I was born and raised in Honiton.
Where do you live at the moment?
Up in Cambridge.
Okay.
Yeah. I live up that way. Lived up there for going on 8 years now. But yeah, it's not too bad actually. Yeah, it's nice. I find it, because obviously Honiton's a bit of a small town. But Cambridge is like a bit like Exeter. It's not a massive city, and it's got so much green space around. It's like it's a nice in between like a small town and a big city.
There's a question as well. You obviously don't have to make the substitution day. Is this your last stop of the day, or are you going to be heading anywhere else?
No, it's going to be the last stop of the day. Like I said,
once you're back, there's
it's going to get cold and wet. I don't know if it's today, but we've got Devon Air ambulance and that. So is that what they will go down to the airport thing down there? Don't they? Yeah, because I've seen a few fire trucks and that going down there, so I'm assuming they store down there and that. But all good? Alright, cheers guys.
But obviously, like I say, at the moment, it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
If we can keep calls, come back.
Yeah, no worries, I tell them I'm not going to hang around.
Substantiate the allegations of offences.
Yeah.
We kind of have to deal with it, don't we? We can't turn a blind eye and ignore stuff. At the same time, if I don't think there is an offence, I'll make one up.
Cool, no worries.
Right.
Sounds like a plan. Cheers, chaps.
The officer left the door open on his way out. Another complaint, he suggested, could bring police back. It was a parting shot, a final attempt to cause uncertainty over what the auditor chose to do next. It didn't land. The auditor challenged the logic directly. A camera alone, he pointed out, proves nothing. And if that was a standard for suspicion, then the business's own outward-facing CCTV would meet it just as easily. That comparison did something Angdon never could. It exposed a double standard quietly, precisely, and without giving the officer anything to push back against. You could hear the shift in the exchange. The logic had landed, and once it did, the officer had nowhere left to go. Emotion gives authorities something to work with. Facts do not. The moment this conversation moved from vague suspicion to measurable legal threshold, the power in the room moved with it. This is what it looks like when a citizen understands exactly where the line is and holds the officer to it. A camera is not evidence of intent. Suspicion requires more than a complaint and an assumption. And when you understand that threshold clearly, vague warnings lose the weight they were meant to carry. Know the standard. Stay composed. And make every step of the process earn its justification. Because accountability doesn't happen by accident. It happens because someone stayed calm, stayed informed, and kept the camera rolling.